questions. I appreciate a few of you answering some questions or asking some questions along the way. Commissioner Sullivan.
Yeah, this is a general, I have some other questions later, but FDOT has indicated we're not going to build any more secant walls along our 18 miles of beach. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say never, but right now they've got the one kind of in Flagler Beach, and then they've got the one that they're working on to the south. Yeah. As it stands right now, no, there are no plans for them to build additional seawalls.
Where there is secant walls in place, is the cost greater or lesser to maintain that beach over the years?
I think it's, when you're talking just the sand portion, you do need to put sand in front of a seawall or else it'll erode. It's just sand, and you will have some dune there, I would imagine. But I think when you look at the overall cost of putting in the seawall versus beach renourishment and dune system, I think the cost of the dune and beach is probably cheaper because you still have the expensive cost of the seawall. You still have to put sand in front of it.
FDOT pay for the seawall?
FDOT paid for their seawall, and it's my understanding from talking to the district that they had allocated funding. I think it was somewhere around $500,000 that they would put sand back in front of the seawall a year.
So I just say it's not in any of this right now, but when we're looking at ways of ultimately saving a little money, that could be a possibility. I just want to throw that out there. That's all. That's it.
Well, Dave, I don't think so, because there's other seawalls involved. You have the seawalls that homeowners put in south of Varn Park. It's quite a few. But the seawall doesn't work unless you put sand in front of it. So,
but FDOT kind of includes that when they put in one of those walls.
A limited amount of sand, but we're going to have to put more.
We are?
Yep.
Okay.
Why don't you put rock in front of it?
Hold on. Can't. There'll be time for public comment.
That was my only question. That's it. I got my answer.
Mr. Hanson, do you have any other comments?
No, it's a remarkable presentation, and one that I've certainly been involved with for a long time. I really appreciate all the good work, and this is one of those categories of jobs that are projects that kind of falls in the must-do category. If we don't do it, we'll lose the beach. So this is a critical thing for us. Thank you.
Any other questions? Open up for public comment. You have a question?
Yeah, no, I don't have questions. It's just a summation, but we'll do the public comment.
Okay. All right, so at this time, we'll open it up for public comment. If you wanted to take this time to approach the commission on this issue on the beach nourishment plan, come up, state your name. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Jane Gentile, as a real estate broker for 45 years. Who's determined the benefit of value of my house in Plantation Bay for the beach? Okay, I want to know who is determining the values, Leanne, your district. What benefit are the people out in Bunnell going to have from the beach? Actually, my husband and I have only been to the beach twice because we have dogs and I don't want to bring sand into the house. I'm very fussy. We usually go to the beach when we go on cruises and get the cabins dirty, not our house. You have raised our taxes so much on nonsense, and you're collecting more money. You pay the legal department almost $1 million a year. I think you really need to look this over. But more than anything, what I'm gathering from this beach renourishment is you all look like a bunch of school children listening to your master. You hire her to work for you. You should be telling her and the staff what to do. You should ask, not me, how do you derive these benefits? How am I going to benefit? I want Jay Gardner, and I like Jay. Somebody to come out and tell me how I'm going to benefit from the beach renourishment. And I love Eric, and I love Flagler Beach. Okay, but I don't go to the beach. And if someone buys my house, I don't see any listing in Plantation Bay that says only 3 miles from the beach. Although as the crow flies, it is 3 miles. The commission should be telling staff what to do, not vice versa. This is what I find totally deplorable, that you all look like a bunch of school children who come in and you listen to your employee telling you what's going on, and then you give your attorney $1 million a year to shell things out to people, to pay Captain's Barbecue $1 million who just opened their 3rd restaurant, and you shaft us completely. I really think this is disgusting. You need to table everything and take control and do the work, not listen to your employee telling you what needs to be done. Thank you for your time, and I don't mean to get upset. It's just my New York Jewish nature. I'm sorry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I could comment on that, she's not included in the program.
All right, I think we'll have, at the end of public comment, we'll have time to address everybody, but you're correct. The barrier island is the area within the MSBU of the unincorporated county. Did you have a comment? We'll address at the end. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Richard Hamilton. I live on Island Estates. I would stress I'm here today just purely out of my personal interest. I'm not representing anyone except for myself. And I've also got to say that it really doesn't matter to me personally what happens to this, because none of the methods you're proposing really make me any financial hardship. So I'm not claiming that it's going to impact me. I'm fortunate. I recognize that there are others who are less fortunate on the hammock. And I appreciate that Heidi has made efforts to take care of those people. I own several properties, none of them on the beach. They're all in the intracoastal. They're all in the intracoastal floodplain. And I still have a difficulty understanding why I'm considered getting a benefit from this when we've just seen that your yard was flooded. I don't know if yours was flooded or not. Mine was okay. It was a few inches below. There are other people who have a whole lot of problems from flooding, which has nothing to do with the beach. It wasn't to do with beach erosion. So I'm not going to try and take my 3 minutes to cover every item. I'll send Heidi a note. I'll copy you all on it with various arguments. But what I do want to recognize, first of all, Heidi and Jorge and her staff have done a great job. This is a very difficult issue. So I'm not at all going to try and say they're wrong or whatever. They're trying to make the best they can. But first of all, that survey where people said how much they were willing to spend, question 9 was a misleading question, because it said, how much are you willing to spend? It didn't say just on the MSBU. I mean, as Heidi's analysis shows, everyone on the barrier island and the county is going to spend some money through the property taxes, through the sales taxes, and whatever. So it's not just the MSBU. And then, as I say, I'm not sure what benefit I'm getting for this property. My taxable value is of my properties, not on the beach, actually exceeds some of the people who are on the beach and their taxable property. And you're saying that this project increases my value more than theirs. I think that's wrong. I think you still need to look at the possibility of some element of this plan being based on those who are on the ocean, based on linear footage or something like that. So with that, the other thing is you have this evening, I think, a discussion about the FDOT and the protection of the A1A. It's not clear whether this Reach 2 ends at R45 or R46. The difference being that one of those range monuments is where the A1A bends away from the ocean. And I don't believe, some charts show that that bend is included, some charts show it excluded. But it really makes sense if the FDOT is going to spend some money on it, that they protect that whole reach where the A1A is very close to the ocean before it bends away. But that may be too late for you to do, considering all the approvals that are in. Anyway, I'll send you all a note later. Thank you.
Thank you. Next public speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Randy Hunsaker. I ain't no expert, but I've done construction my whole life. And you keep talking about hauling sand in, dredging it, and bringing it back in. And every time you get a storm, it washes it back out. And in my opinion, like you can make, you could put rock alongside the road and then build a seawall next to the road. The rock would break the waves, it'd quit washing the sand out, and you'd save a lot of money overall. As far as the beach goes, you could put a breaker out there of rocks, and then you could have sand where people can go to the beach in a certain area. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Celia Puglisi. I do not live in the Barrier Island. I am here since 91, and I live in the west side of the Intracoastal. I have to agree with the first two speakers, including Mr. Hamilton, I think his name is. I know him for a long time. The issue, and also this gentleman, it's beautiful the way the beach is with all the sand and everything, but we risk every storm, and we are getting more and worse, washes off that sand. I think this county has to start thinking about the following. You need to plan for the future that is right here, what we're having with all these storms, and the flooding and the ocean coming in. You need to start thinking about allowing only people to build half a block from the ocean front or one block, like I've seen in many other coasts of the United States, including Texas and the Northeast and the West, because these storms are going to destroy everything on the beachfront. That's the first thing the county needs to start thinking about, not allowing any more new homes built right there on the ocean's edge. And whoever lives on the beachfront, it is supposed to fund this type of renourishment. Because myself is like I am with Mr. Gental Yao. If I go once a year to the beach or less, it's a lot, because most people, like in the other side of the Intracoastal, our age, we just don't go anymore to the beach to sun. This is a problem. It's a lot of work to walk in and out of the beach. So we should not be paying for this. And if it will be collaboration, it should be minimal, because this actually benefits those people that are in the beachfront. Those houses are several millions each, and they can really afford this. If they afford that type of property, should not be paid by the people in Western Flagler County, in Bunnell, city of Pamcos, and the other residents around. That's the only thing I could say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim Carney, Flagler Beach. I've been to many of these. This is not my first one. And you also know about my experience in Flagler Beach working with the Army Corps. So my biggest concern right now is the other municipalities. All the numbers are there. Everything adds up. 35 million plus minus 5 million. I get it. There's no consideration for what the other two municipalities who are intimately involved in this decision haven't even met with you yet. You've had no meetings with Flagler Beach. There's been no communication with Flagler Beach. I've read the interlocal agreement with the Flagler Beach. I don't agree with the interlocal agreement, and I don't think you're interpreting it the same way we do. You have a whole group of people that support tourism in Flagler Beach, that if all that tourism money is used on the unincorporated, where does Flagler Beach get any money from tourism? So there's no way you're going to get a meeting with these other municipalities before November 4th when you're supposed to vote on this. But could you at least ask your administrator to reach out and have a conversation on where everyone stands? Does everyone know what the county is doing and what steps you're taking? Because you are impacting two other very vital municipalities in this county. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. All right, we'll bring it back to the dais. Additional questions? Let's clarify some of the public comment. If you could, just address the comments of the other areas outside of the barrier island being a part of the MSBU.
Certainly, thank you. So as I presented this is for Flagler County unincorporated residents on the barrier island. This does not include everybody in Flagler County. It is only for those property owners that are located on the barrier island, which means you have to either take the State Road 100 bridge or the Palm Coast Parkway bridge to get onto the barrier island. And it is only for the properties that are north of the town of Beverly Beach and south of the town of Marineland. So again, it's not everybody. We do, as Flagler County, we do own 6 parks that are in that stretch, which the county does have a responsibility to protect so that we don't have breaches where we're flooding residential communities within that barrier island. The reason why this does not include, right now, the city of Flagler Beach or the town of Beverly Beach or the town of Marineland is because Flagler County does not have jurisdiction over those municipalities. We cannot simply go in there and create an MSBU without the city or town's approval. Therefore, the only legal authority that the Board of County Commission has is for the unincorporated area, because we recognize that we've got roughly 6,700 parcels within that area, or in this case for the MSBU, about 6,400 parcels. That is the area that you all have jurisdiction for. You are the only government for those people. The people within that stretch are looking to the Board of County Commission for help, support, moving this forward. That's why it doesn't include the city of Flagler Beach, town of Beverly Beach, town of Marineland. So I don't know if everybody now understands that, but that's why it's not the people in Plantation Bay that are going to be paying. It's not the people in Palm Coast that are going to be paying. It is the MSBU for that unincorporated area. There was a question about putting rocks out in the ocean instead of using sand. As you know, and Commissioner Hansen can attest, we went to Tallahassee, we met with DEP, we talked about jetties, we talked about rocks, we talked about wave attenuators, we talked about seawalls, we talked about a lot of things, and at the end of the day, DEP is going to tell us what we can and cannot put on the beach. They have said that we need to look at doing a dune and beach restoration. They are not willing to permit anything other than that. So that's why we're not looking at rocks. It's not that we didn't try. It's not that we didn't have that conversation with them. But there are regulatory agencies that dictate to us what we can do. We can't just go out there and do whatever we want. I don't know if I missed anything. I tried keeping track, so.
I think that was most of it. I know Richard had talked about whether it was R45 or R46. But that stretch, the road still has, it's different than the southern reach where A1A is directly on the ocean. There's still private property.
It is, and I think the difference in the document that you see, initially, Reach 2 was going to be south of Barn Park or right at Barn Park. What we are doing and what's at DEP right now is that permit modification, as I mentioned, that takes it north of Varn Park. So on the original Reach 2, it was at a different R monument. It now is being proposed to be at a higher R monument, which takes it north of Barn Park. That agenda item that you have coming up today, I think it was roughly for 1.8 million and change. And it's that JPA change that the FDOT was asking us to, or we asked them to modify. There is roughly, and I want to say it's like $400,000 remaining out of the Reach 1 project that FDOT was willing to consider us applying in Reach 2. Reach 2, again, is an area where they have a secant wall. That's why they're allowing us to apply it. It's only $400,000. It's not a ton of money. I know that the JPA amendment says 1.8, but what's left available is about 400, and that will be used in Reach 2. Again, it's at a higher monument than what it was originally proposed.
Okay, so I just want to make sure the comments from Jane and Celia are clear. And we'll come back to the board for more comments and questions.
I'll start there. I'll start here. Go ahead. No, I did want to answer two things. One, to some extent, they're correct because there's a tenth of a mil that comes out of the entire bucket of taxpayers. But to Mr. Hamilton, I thought about this long and hard because I was in the same thought process when we started this a while ago. But when you think about that barrier island and the property values on the barrier island, and I wish we had a chart to show the percentage of tax base they represent out of there. If you don't have properties over there holding their value, what does that do to the other properties within the barrier island? I mean, if we had to condemn entire condominium complexes, as they've had to do in certain areas, property valuations would decline in that area. And so I think about it sort of that perspective. You don't think about it like that. We could probably take it offline. But then if you have entire linear frontage destroyed, what does that do to your HOA costs? If they're not paying into your HOA any longer, there's no property there. So I've been looking at it somewhat like that. And the same goes with the entire barrier island with their valuation of their homes. If their valuation is no longer there because of beach erosion, beach damage, property damage, how does the rest of the county make up that tax? So I've been talking with people, and I'd love to meet with you offline to talk about that. But what happens if there's no barrier island and there's no properties and there's no higher valuation out there? How much tax do they pay? How do we make up for that if the property's not there? So it's just a thought I've been thinking about a lot lately, and as we have these discussions, because I don't benefit from the beach, but I do benefit from the fact that they are a tax base that pays in, and if they weren't there, it would be more tax on the interior. So thinking about it like that, but I think that they are right, and then that they do pay the tenth of the mil that's in here. And I wasn't very clear when I said that, was I laughing? But you can see, I mean, when you lose entire frontage, it pushes the tax back on the rest of us because they're not there to pay it any longer. Their valuation is gone.
Well, the biggest component of what you said there is, and specifically to Richard's comment, that what it does to his property value if the beach goes away. So
well, and if
there is
you're
a
sitting in an
benefit. There is a
HOA that
benefit. Yeah.
They're no longer there to support your HOA. I mean, it all just pushes back. And, there's no perfect solution on this one.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Yeah, if you won't mind now, I'm not going to be on the board much longer. So I thought I'd give kind of how I get to where I am at this point. I'm not challenging in any way the costs that are going to be involved in this. But I go back to the survey we did. We spent money to do a survey. 90% of the entire county said the beach was important to them and urgent to them. Even when it came to, would you be willing to contribute any funding to keep the beach viable into the future? And we're in the 75% number. We're not talking specific amounts of money. We're just talking in general. So starting there, my philosophy as I developed it on this was that we have the tourist development money that's already assigned. There's a part of the Tourist Development Council money, and it's so much per year. And in the first year, fiscal year this coming fiscal year, we're going to put $2 million in from the Tourist Development Council, but they may not have that amount of money in that fund each year, but at least be $1 million, and we may increase it. So that money is there. My feeling was that one way or another, we should have some contribution from the rest of the county to keep the beaches going. And I thought, first of all, well, we just make it a high enough priority in the budget. It comes out of you start off at the beginning of the year, you say it's going to take this much money per year, and we just assign that as a cost, like roads. It's really not that much different than roads. Everybody pays for roads, even though they don't use them all the time, or don't use any specific road. The beaches are there as and we've done ordinances to prove that it's open to all of us. And it's back in the earlier part of this century, they actually or last century, they used to use the beach as a road to get north and south from St. Augustine. So I was coming from that side, so I think everybody ought to pay based on the survey. As this plan has developed, and as I see it now, I think it's a compromise. Politics and government are a compromise. What we've tried to do is make it as equitable as possible. And I think where we are now is a reasonable decision. It's not perfect, but it's a compromise. And we are asking for a tenth of the mill. We are asking for an MSTU. We are asking for the tourist development dollars. We are asking for the half-cent sales tax dollars. So I think, I have to admit it, I didn't think you could do it, but I think the compromise that you've come up with is as good a shot at taking care of this as possible. It doesn't take care of the future of the Army Corps program and how that's going to be funded in the future, that kind of thing. But that's how I developed my thoughts on this. I know that's taken a long time, but you won't be able to hear me much longer, and that's kind of where I'm coming from on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any others? Commissioner Bryan?
Yeah. Yeah, like Commissioner Sullivan, I just wanted to kind of give my thoughts on it, since a lot of these decisions will be left for future commissions. But I want to thank staff. I think there was a lot of hard work put into the thought process here, and all the work that was done with surveys and town halls and the analysis work. But overall, from my thought process, from the the 10 feet above, if you will, I think the proposed additional funding for this unincorporated area is a good approach. I think it's supported by the survey, which I do believe seems to be statistically significant. 807 out of 675 folks is, as we saw by the numbers, there's high confidence there. There's a strong benefit analysis, and to support the dedicated millage justified by the parks. I think there's a rational nexus there, and then the MSBU. I think makes sense and is again supported by the analysis and also the surveys. And lastly, the legal approach in terms of being supported by statute seems to be there as well. So overall, I would hope that this commission and future commissions would recognize those points and move appropriately to get the MSBU started in the future. I did have 2 mild pushbacks, one or maybe disagreements, if you will, for respectfully, from Mr. Hamilton. I read that question 9, and, I'm just going to read it. It says, what do you believe would be a fair annual contribution per household for beach management? It was only asked of those 6,775 parcel owners, and 66% of them said $300 or more. So, excuse me. 66% of them said at least $100 is what it was. I apologize. So, but still, there's I think the question was clear. And the other respectful pushback I would have for Ms. Carney, the fact is tourism supports Flagler Beach with millions of dollars of promotion and marketing dollars. So, and those business owners there appreciate that very much. So I don't think it's fair to say that there's, TDC funding doesn't go towards supporting Flagler Beach and the businesses. And lastly, if I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Flagler Beach Commission has been pretty adamant or assertive about wanting to do their own beach management. And so they're going to have to work with us for sure to figure out how to pay for it, because I haven't heard any conversation from that side about how they plan to do that. I don't even think they've even addressed it. So, I'll flamethrower that a little bit, but I think that's fact. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure, thank you. Did you have something else, Commissioner Hanson?
Well, just as to wrap it up, if we don't do this, then what do we do? And when do we do it? I think this is, as I said before, this is a critical step to save our beaches. We've discussed alternatives up in Tallahassee with the DEP, and we've had the special engineers in Olson look at this. I think we're doing the best we can. It's an incredible effort by our staff to put this together. So I think this is absolutely the right thing to do.
All right, I just have a few comments addressing some of the public comments. As I've had the opportunity to go to one of the town halls, but I've also talked to a couple of the commissioners in Flagler Beach with some preliminary discussions about this, but addressing the benefits of the MSBU. Right, first and foremost is protection of property values, and it is dependent really about where your house is located. You're getting more of a benefit than others, but I think the CCL plan, that one is not part of this plan. Is that correct, Ms. Petito? Now it's on values?
Correct.
Okay. And again, it goes back to what Commissioner Sullivan said. We've kind of gone through a few different variations of this, and this is kind of the compromise to where we are right now. Whether I agree with every single one of the points really isn't the point. It's trying to get some consensus. But second, on the benefits, right, we've understand that A1A can be compromised, and the barrier island has one way in and out. It's through the barrier. It's through A1A. The beach renourishment protects that vital source. That's why DOT has spent a lot of money helping us protect that. But that's the second benefit. The third being environmental. We've seen what happens with dune breaches in Washington Oaks. The quality and the values of the hammock would depreciate significantly with widespread dune breaks that would inundate the coastal hammock, and you would end up with wide swaths of dead oak trees throughout. The big oaks that provide all the shade and the character of the hammock would end up going away with massive dune breaches. The environmental for wildlife and plant material would be substantial. And really, I think we'll just stop on those three. I think that's the main parts. I think we talked about flooding, right? This isn't a flooding program. This is protection of the dunes and the beach and the property behind it, but you get a good dune breach in the middle of our barrier island, and that will affect flooding in that one specific storm if we got a dune breach and it was opening beach and tidal flows into the intercoastal. That would significantly affect flooding. So those are the main parts of the benefit. That's why the entire barrier island, in my view, is tied to the beach management and restoration. I do have some questions which we can address before the next meeting, and I've got some sustainability questions about the economic funding, and really it's about the monies that we're reallocating, right? So we're reallocating monies that we have been using for other areas in the past. So part of what I want to get a better handle on, and whether it's consensus, I can get the information from you, but I want to let you know that I want to get a better idea of the half-penny sales tax monies, that and the 1/10 that we will obviously set aside. Those are that's been historically the goal of the board is property tax relief, and a 1/10 has been the goal for the past few years. So obviously that becomes in question if that's going to be able to be sustained moving forward. But definitely want to get, with all the other needs that we have, right, where this has kind of been pushed to the top priority, and maybe rightly so. It's a huge part of our environment and sustainability, at least economically. So if we're reallocating these funds, I need better assurances of where we're postponing some other potential improvements, or where we're not going to be spending money. We're really allocating a significant portion of money, and I just want to get a better grasp of that moving forward. I'm still not sure how the every 6 years renourishment works. So obviously the most important and costly part of the beach nourishment is the mobilization of equipment for dredging, which is the most economical aspect. So every 6 years, if we're estimating for nourishment, is that through dredging? And if so, do we have a finite source of material to be going after? Because I see us, if we end this source, are we then looking and going for additional sources? Is that kind of built into that monetary estimate as well?
So when our consultant had done the beach management study, they had identified a source of offshore sand about 7 miles off the coast. They had permitted it, and it is what they feel is adequate for the next 50 years. That was a requirement of the Army Corps as well as the entire 18 miles of coastline. So you do have sand source off the coast sufficient for at least 50 years, and that's what your permit allows.
Okay, and every 6 years, if it's deemed, right, this is still a question if it's deemed, we're estimating based on a 6-year interval, but that cost, we can move the dredge and the pipe up and down the entire length of the reach, depending on what needs to be filled.
You would. I mean, it's similar to what they did in the south part of Flagler Beach, where that pipeline and that activity continued north. It would be the same thing. It would just be a coordination. And the 6 years is not something that is etched in stone. It was more from a planning perspective from our coastal engineer and the discussions that they had based on the activity that we've seen recently over the last, probably dozen or so years, when you look at the Army Corps, I think they were somewhere around 10 or 11 years that they would come back. I don't think that the Army Corps anticipated that they'd be coming back less than a year after completion. But again, I mean, it's all from a planning perspective. It's all subject to change. But just so that we could move forward with the figures and what we know to be true, it's again, it's what our consultant engineering firm came up with. They think that every 6 years is doable.
And that's the money that we're planning now, is in order to make sure we stockpile enough for the maintenance moving forward. Bear with me while I go through my notes. And the breakdown of the 17, I guess one of the other things I'll need some additional clarification on because of questions I've had is just through the breakdown of the funding for the maintenance and nourishment moving forward. So exactly what's involved in each of those categories we broke out. We can share it with the rest of the commission. I just got to get a better idea of where those funds are going and where the costs are going. And I guess the final thing was, right, so when we first did this plan over the summer, we kind of got railed publicly for moving way too fast. We were trying to get something pushed through because of a budget cycle that made things seem as though it was being rushed through and not being substantially thought through. So want to commend staff now for the past 2 months. We've taken time to be able to reach out to the public through various town halls, through the work on the survey. And I don't want to, this is my personal thoughts, again, I don't want to leave us short of not making sure that we take time to work with the other municipalities. I don't think the other municipalities are in the same boat that we are with the expertise in this that we've acquired over the years. And I know Kim has worked hard in the past on it too, but the comments I get is that the last thing I want to do is leave parts of our beach unplanned or uncovered, right? And an entire beach has to be fully maintained in order for there to not be any susceptible components or for the whole plan to not fall apart. And I think we need to take some time to work with, in planning with our other municipalities on the coast to make sure that they understand the ramifications, that we work through the interlocal that we've already established, and maybe just make sure, again, that they understand the implications of what the Army Corps is requiring. We can't, I think there's different ideas of what the maintenance is going to require. And that bothers me only because I want to make sure that there's a consistent level and focus on the entire length of the coast, and we don't leave gaps there. So that would be the last comment, really, is that after spending all the time, after doing things correctly to get public input and look at all the parameters, we got plenty of good feedback. I mean, I sat and listened to some very passionate residents talk about various issues that they had with it, but we've to your benefit, you've looked at all of this stuff. And I think to counter the other argument that I heard through public comment is the commission, since the very first meeting, has been leading this direction. We made it pretty clear that we weren't jumping on the original proposals that were sent, that we wanted to do our due diligence, and we gave you the direction to go through this path of acquiring public input, and really with the different HOAs, with the Dunes Development District, through discussions about the bridge and tolls, a wide variety of different options. And I want to appreciate that thoughtfulness. So, to counter those arguments, the commission's been driving the train to ensure that we collect public input appropriately. But that's just it. Again, I think there's a few things that I want to make sure that this is a sustainable plan moving forward over different economic cycles. I think it's built right now for this economic cycle, and I don't know, want to make sure there's variables built into that. But that's it for my comments. I guess we need to give, I just want to say we need to give direction, though, I think, moving forward on if we're going to have different workshops before November 4th, if we're going to have consensus to bring this back as an agenda item on November 4th. Those, I think, are the most important things right now. And Commissioner?
Yeah, I just want to talk on the coordination. I will say this, that we've been coordinating with everyone involved, including the city of Flagler Beach, throughout the process. How many times has Al Hadid been at your meetings and gone through every single detail there was concerning the Army Corps program and what was needed to get it done? So I think there has been coordination. There'll continue to be a heavy need for coordination. Bringing a dredge in and setting up the pipes isn't a small feat. So I'll have to keep coordinating with the Army Corps over the years on that. And so I just want to say that, yes, I acknowledge that coordination is always important, but I do think that the county has done everything they can to get people involved. And I just point to that one thing, both on the tourist development side and with our Al Hadid, our city attorney, our county attorney has been unbelievably involved on this process for the last 3 or 4 years. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. So if that's the end, right, you've proposed a plan to bring this back November 4th, but you opened up some additional windows for other meetings or workshops or outreach. So does anybody have anything to offer? Did you want to say something to that regard?
I mean, I wasn't planning on any additional outreach for this particular piece because it is for the unincorporated area and the unincorporated area only. So I don't feel that there needs to be additional outreach within the unincorporated area. I'd be more than happy to share with you a funding strategy of how I think we can accomplish this with the use of half-cent sales tax as well as the tourist development tax, as well as the general fund. I think that you've already alluded to the fact that we have been in contact with the cities. We had tried scheduling a meeting prior to this. However, it had gotten delayed until after the election. There's still an opportunity for them to join on, whether it's in the form of another MSBU or some other program. I know that Jason Harrow with the Corps had finalized the strategy for maintenance, ongoing maintenance plan that has been provided to the city of Flagler Beach for their input through our coastal engineer, Ansley. So I know that there have been communication, primarily probably with Flagler Beach, more so than maybe the town of Beverly Beach or Marineland, but I do believe that everybody's aware of it. As you alluded to, our county engineer has been heavily involved over the last probably 7 to 10 years. So unless you're deciding or giving me direction on some other community outreach, the only thing I have notes for is to provide the financing or funding plan and then bring it back on November 4th for consideration.
Okay. Anything else? Direction? I mean,
I think we got to bring it back on the 4th and vote on it. We got to do that.
I would just offer anyway that I want to make sure that we have personally, and again, this is consensus can overrule me, but I want to make sure that there's at least some acknowledgement from the other municipalities that are affected, the three, that they understand, they've seen the report, and they understand what we're pursuing. And if they have any questions, their last opportunity is going to be on November 4th, but they can definitely reach out to us.
I don't know if I would say that they have until November 4th. Right now, what we're just trying to focus on is the unincorporated. You still have time for them to come on board in the form of a different MSBU or their own program altogether. But certainly we can share with them the report, what our consultant has shared with us as far as cost and what that frequency looks like. But it's, it wouldn't necessarily hinder or change this MSBU because this is solely mapped out for the area that we're specifying. It'll be in the ordinance, the area. We have to define what those limits are. So this particular MSBU is only for the area that we talked about today.
Okay. And I know that this will get highly publicized, so it's not as though your letter would be the only thing that they would get, but I just want to make it clear, I guess, that if there's any lingering questions or if they haven't quite figured out on their end what the annual maintenance or the costs are going to be, that they reach out to us so that we can utilize, our staff to help them figure that out, and that we have common. That our metrics are common, that we're all planning on the same types of renourishment costs or programs so that there's not gaps.
Well, Andy, the Flagler Beach has a whole different program, and that's with the Corps of Engineers. And their renourishment is 10 or 11 years. And they've got that plan in front of them. Now, I'm not sure that they've thought about how they're going to pay for it, but they have the plan. And I haven't seen it, so I don't know what it costs. But I think we stand ready to help them come up with a plan to pay for it. But they don't fit this MSBU at all, that they have entirely different problems there. So, I mean, you can't just wave a wand and say, well, Flagler Beach wants to be part of this. No, they can't do that. But as Ms. Petito said, I mean, we would certainly help them set up an MSBU for their 2.6 miles if that's what they want to do. But I think our attorney's been involved with them. They know what they've got in front of them, and if it just doesn't fit with this. This is the unincorporated 10 miles
Okay.
that we have to take care of.
Yeah,
we have to take care of.
I agree. I think the two need to be delinked.
Yeah.
All right, well, with that, we've covered everything. We've got public comment. At this time, if it's okay with everybody, we'll take a 10-minute break
Wait,
and then come back for,
Just clarification, is she still going to notify them formally of our intent?
well, if, it was just my comment, so if everybody wanted to give her further direction.
I think what you were saying, and I think maybe we should just go down the line. Should we not at least notify them formally? That way, if they want to send representation to our November 4th meeting for discussion or
With a copy of the plan.
maybe at that point, because we could have if they're adamant of joining or having their own, they could at least notify us so that we can begin. I think we should formally notify them. I'm not saying that we don't continue on November 4th, but maybe that Heidi notify them that this item will be on the agenda.
I think passing information to people is always a good thing to do.
Yes, if
That's
it
it.
helps in the
That's why
robust
I would
debate.
not look at this as
Yeah.
we're asking.
No, I
them
totally understand it
permission.
for that
It's-
incorporated.
Right.
And we can build out
it's just
something for them.
a measure of making sure they informed on what we're doing.
Right.
We'll just formally notify them that we're intending to do this. Okay.
I can do that. I can also send a copy of the PowerPoint to them. I can work with Ansley to break out what each jurisdiction looks like because they're part of the incorporated area. Just so if they're choosing to follow along with what our consultant's recommending, then they know it's required of them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments? If not, we'll take 10-minute break and we'll come back for the next item, which is the